And I'll do like, hey everyone. Okay, we made it work.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay? I'm figuring yes, right? But I'm like,
Can y'all hear Rojo?
Yes.
perfect. Thank you. We're kind of making this work so both we can both be on screen, but we only use one sound. So you may be hearing Taylor. No, you'll be seeing Taylor, but you're hearing me, and you can see me here too. Technology. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. So exciting. We are at 04, so we'll start here in like about a minute or two. But yeah, I think it would be helpful just to go around, introduce us, name, and you can go ahead and have your pronouns if you choose to, but you can mention your pronouns. And then it's very important that we keep telling people where we are or where we're from. So if you want to acknowledge the land of where you're standing right now or the land where you come from, I welcome that. And then for an icebreaker, it was tough because I was thinking, what's something quick that people can mention, right? And earlier we were talking about food. So the question, simple for today, would be, what is one meal or one food item that you recommend everyone here today? That's a good, I mentioned it and now I started. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started since we're about to hit the 8:05, and I'll pass it around and then we'll see as people arrive. I'll put this on the chat too. My name is Rojo, Rogelio Mejueiro, but I go by Rojo. He, they pronouns. Today I'm acknowledging, they actually gave us one, so I'm gonna be doing the actual land acknowledgement here in a little bit. But I'm acknowledging that I'm in what is now called Washington, D.C., but we are staying in Arlington, and we are here with the two tribes, right, that they recognize. We'll be acknowledging them here in a second. I also acknowledge the Caddo and Wichita affiliated tribes from the area where I stay, where I call home, which will be the DFW, particularly Arlington next to UTA. And finally, the meal that today I share with you all is one I hold dear to my heart from my hometown in Oaxaca, and it is mole, particularly one called estofado, which it is basically made with red chilies that are different from the one originally used with mole. Same consistency, but it's a bit sweet. So if you like sweet meals, that's a good one. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it down to Dr. Ana Perez.
I'm actually going to take a quick second. Sorry, I just wanted to welcome Senator Gutierrez. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're doing a quick round of intros, if that's all right, and then we'll get started.
I'm Ana Perez. I'm in El Paso, Texas. I live on the reservation at Isleta del Sur Pueblo, and I am Tigua. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in person in June. The food that I would say today is what I have been craving, capirotada. So those of you that don't know what that is, it's like a bread pudding. But anyway, we usually make it at Lent. So now I'll pass it on to, how about Justin?
All right, so Justin Goodell, right now in Plano, Texas. He, him pronouns. And favorite food that I would recommend, it's from my hometown, Rochester, New York, the Garbage Plate. So what it is mac salad. Yeah, if you've heard of it, if you've heard of it, it sounds disgusting, and trust me, just try it, late at night. But it's mac salad, home fries or French fries, meat sauce, and the traditional way is mustard and onions. So you kind of layer it all on top of it, each other, and you cut it all up, mix it all up, and eat it. It's honestly enough to feed two people. Some places make it enough to feed three people. It's like, I want to say like 2,000 or 3,000 calories a serving. But I mean, we eat after like football games and stuff, just when you need to have those calories. And I mean, sounds disgusting, but tastes amazing. It's a little bit of an acquired taste, but delicious.
Yeah. I'm going to throw it over to Martha.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Martha, and I'm in Fort Worth, Texas. And I don't have a favorite food. My favorite food is ice cream. So that's my favorite food. So that's mostly what I eat is a lot of ice cream. I eat junk food often. But I am So far, I'm enjoying meeting all of you, and I am looking forward to working with you all.
Awesome. Next on my screen is Clayton. And then if you want to pass it to someone after you.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Clayton. I'm from Farmers Branch, 1/8 Cherokee. Pronouns are he, him. I guess favorite food. I would the food that I like. It's not easy to get. There are a few places in Dallas you can get it. It's the Bowberry biscuits from Bojangles.
Ooh.
They're like blueberry biscuits with lots of icing on it. They're very, very good. They've got 3 locations in the Dallas area and it's starting to branch out. Anytime I'm at a truck stop that's got it, I grab them. And I'm not sure who else has not spoken, so I don't know who to pass it to.
Oh, thank you, Leisha.
Thanks, Taylor. Thank you, Clayton. My name is Leisha. I'm in Houston. I am a Choctaw native. And I wouldn't say I have a favorite food because I eat just about anything. But right now I'm on a mint chocolate chip ice cream kick. So get ready to run to HEB here shortly and pick up a pint of that. Wish it were a little more like authentic or like homemade, but that's what I'm craving at the moment.
I'm going to pick on Richard next.
Okay, I'm Rick. I'm from Plano, Texas. My favorite food is menudo, oddly enough. Can't get too much good stuff here locally, but I try. And that's it. That's all I got to say.
Otilia, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. I'm Otilia Enriquez, Puenteo Enriquez. I'm here in Burleson. I'm originally from Uvalde. My favorite food is a good carne guisada. I have yet to find it up here in the Fort Worth area. You got to go to South Texas, Austin, or further south. Thank you.
Kristen?
That was pretty much it.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me okay on this headset? My name is Kristen Hange, and I'm the secretary for the Indigenous Peoples Caucus. I'm in Houston, and what else were we asking? I don't remember what we were saying.
Food that you recommend?
Yeah, just a
Yeah.
food that you recommend today, if there's one. I know somebody said ice cream. Now I'm craving ice cream.
Food. I like Minnesota wild rice. I feel like I've said that like 100 times, but if you haven't tried it, it's good to try.
I'm gonna
Al, you want to go? And then you can do me or Juan. I think that's everyone. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm Al Durante, coming to you from beautiful downtown Longview, and I don't know if I have a favorite food. I have many favorite foods. I like food. No, I like a lot of, anything that's not standard American food. I think I like. I'm a big fan. My go-to is Mexican, just because I grew up in New York. I grew up in Brooklyn, and when I grew up in Brooklyn, we didn't have Mexican food. Mexican food was like a rarity. There was like one Mexican restaurant in New York. So I'm making up for it now. And I lived in San Antonio for a year. And so, I learned what good Mexican food was down there. And should I pass it along to Roland and see what his favorite food is? Okay, Roland, you're on mute. There you go.
No, well, thank you all for having me. First off, it's certainly an honor and a privilege to be here with you. Well, Richard had me at menudo. I mean, that's it's one of my faves. I actually like cooking it too. My mother taught me how to cook it, and menudo and barbacoa and everything good on Sunday morning, and even some tripas every now and then. And so you notice all three of those foods come from our culture. And I think on some level we are all indigenous, right? And I consider myself a mestizo from northern Mexico. You know, my parents were both immigrants from Mexico. My mother was from Freer, Texas, but she died when I was very young. I was raised by my stepmom, who was an immigrant from Mexico. My father was a migrant from Mexico, the northern part of Mexico near Monterrey. They came here when my father was 17 years old in 1950. And so poor family, it's certainly, the American dream. And a lot has changed since then. That dream is a little harder to attain these days with those in power. But thank you for having me. And I look forward to having a discussion. I know you guys wanted me to say a few words, but I'll wait till that time is adequate and whenever you tell me to begin.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much again for being here. We're so happy to have you. So I guess we can finish up intros real quick. I'll pass it over to Rojo for a land acknowledgement after that, and then we can kind of jump into everything. But my name is Taylor Trevino. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Austin, born and raised. And I'm the vice chair of the caucus. Forgot about that. And then the food that I would recommend, because my dad posted about it on Facebook. So one of his like breakfast specialties is French toast, but instead of dipping it in like an egg kind of wash, he dips it in pancake batter. So it's like pancake French toast. So good, not great for you at all, but amazing.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm glad I ate dinner. Otherwise, I'll be very hungry right now. And if you haven't eaten dinner, you're probably getting really hungry right now. So we start by acknowledging. We start by acknowledging where we come from, where we are, who we are. We start by naming who we are, right? We know that this contributions of land acknowledgements begin because there was one day in particular, Columbus Day, right? That overlooks and even endorses the painful history that sometimes ignores the trauma that is still present in the Native communities. And it sometimes even minimizes the importance of the contributions that we make as Native American and Indigenous people. So right now, Taylor and I are located, and I want to acknowledge with humility the land that we sit on, that we stand on, which is the territory of the Nacotchtank people, who then the name of the river was given, the Anacostia, and now known as Washington, D.C., or the capital, right? We then, after acknowledge the land, we acknowledge the people, we acknowledge the labor. So I thank you all so much for putting time to be on this meeting today, Sunday night, our monthly meeting. And as you all know, we're getting closer and closer to the state convention. I believe that some of y'all already attended your county conventions. So
Not yet.
Not yet. You're prepping for it.
Next
No,
Saturday.
you're all signing up for the county conventions. And if you haven't, you probably received the email that we sent to sign up for those. But I know ultimately we're gearing up towards the main one. All right. With that, we move on to what are we doing here in Washington? Just to give you all the update, sharing with you all the link, and then we'll go ahead and then you can go ahead and introduce, right?
Okay, yes, sorry. So yeah, just to briefly go over what Rojo and I are doing here in Washington, D.C. We are here to lobby to get our representatives to pass it's a long name, the Truth and Healing Commission on Indian Boarding School Policies in the U.S. Act. I've discussed this before with some of you guys because I've been working on trying to get this bill passed for about 1.5 years now. Thank you, Rojo, for sharing that. But basically this commission I have it on paper. I mean, first, we're trying to get Congress to actually acknowledge the harms and awful atrocities that they committed with the Indian boarding school policies. There were hundreds, I think over 400 from the early 1800s all the way up through the 1960s, so super recently. And we know the type of impacts, the generational trauma, and just all kinds of things that still persist because of these policies. And so just briefly, this commission would formally investigate and document assimilation practices and human rights violations that occurred at these schools. It would hold different public hearings for survivors and their descendants to learn sort of kind of what needs to happen. And then this commission would create recommendations for Congress that could look like many different things, but really just be the first steps towards this type of healing and reconciliation that needs to happen. So we are here with a group of about 20-something Texans and over 350 young adults from across the country. So what's really cool about this is that on Tuesday, Congress is going to get a huge wave of people from across the country asking them to support this bill and co-sponsor. And so I'm really looking forward to discussing this with Senator Cornyn and Cruz's offices, as well as some of our House reps too, because we've got people from all over Texas with us. So yeah, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it. And then as a good organizer, I have to give you a call to action. Come on, guys. So I went ahead and sent you the link. If you could share this or maybe save it for later. What this will do is that it's a toolkit that will find out who your congressperson is, your senators. We all know them too well. And it would go ahead and just send them this, what we're pushing for on Tuesday, right? The second thing and last thing I'm sending would be the following. Folks, we're almost there when it comes to fundraising. We brought 10 people to this trip. So all we ask is that if y'all could help us by sharing it, because at this point, we're about to make it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have. We'll send y'all the updates as how the lobbying goes later for the next meeting. But most importantly, in May is when we get the update on whether this is going to be co-sponsored by anyone from Texas. So we'll see if our lobby efforts were successful.
May?
Around May, they mentioned that is when they're going to keep pushing for the.
Oh yeah, we're going to push for it again. My hope is that Representative Casar will be like, yeah, we got you, co-sponsoring right now. So hopefully, I mean, we may hear from people in coming weeks if they decide to.
That's right.
But yeah.
And Sophie, if you want to share anything from your experience, feel free to add it on the chat, because I know Sophie should join, one of the participants from the Mesquite area. With that, all yours.
Yes. Did anyone have actually any questions or comments or anything before we move on? If not, I am pulling up my notes.
Taylor,
yes.
would you, since Senator Gutierrez is here, would you like to share some of our past experiences talking to folks from our favorite senator's office?
Ooh, which ones would you like to share?
Well, actually, we spoke to both our senators online, or their staff, actually. And I would say that Senator Cornyn's staff seemed a little more open, friendly, at least listening. Senator Cruz's staff seemed about, I think, where we would expect it to be. I mean, I just, I had one other experience doing issue lobbying that was like that, and that was at the state level back in Virginia, where somebody just obviously, just was seeing you to see you and just couldn't wait for you to leave. So they just seem pretty obnoxious to me, but that's, I don't know if you had the same takeaway. Maybe you're more tolerant than I am.
No, you're right. And so I worked with FCNL on this issue for 10 months, where my job was to set up these meetings and organize people. So there were so many that they kind of ran together. But I did have pretty much the same impressions. And a lot of times too, like, we're the ones educating these staffers on what boarding schools even were and what happened there. So that's definitely a hurdle that we're trying to get past, which goes to education too, which I know is something that we've been talking about, trying to get this Native American Studies high school elective class passed. And
voting. Not voting too. Even like Taylor recently had like this. We were talking about it, and folks were talking about how they use their Native American recognition tribes to be able to vote.
Oh, the tribal ID bill. Yes, Senator Gutierrez will talk to you about this later, but I think UC introduced it last session, and it died. Yeah, a bill for people to use their tribal IDs as well as college IDs as acceptable ID for voting. And I think it died. But if we can bring that back, I think that'd be really helpful. Because I had a conversation with someone the other day who she has a tribal ID, but because she has an out-of-state driver's license and the DPS and all of that, whenever she goes to vote, she has to print out like a utility bill and take her Oklahoma driver's license. And she's in the voting rights space, right? Like, yeah, this affects a lot of people. But anyway.
I thought you raised a good point there, though, Taylor, because that was the basic difference between the two staffs of our senators, is that when we talked to Cornyn's staff, they actually seemed like they wanted to learn, they were listening. Whereas when we talked to Senator Cruz's staff, we just didn't get that same feeling. They just didn't seem to care. And, you know, the actual reason I think it's important to talk about that at this point is that November's a few short months away, and you know, we'll have our chance to make some change, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely hope so. Sorry. Awesome. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce Senator Gutierrez. Thank you for your patience. But yeah, we have an awesome guest with us today. So Roland Gutierrez, a lifelong resident of San Antonio, is an immigration lawyer and a state senator representing District 19, including the cities of San Antonio and Uvalde, Texas. He has been a member of the Texas legislature since 2008. Gutierrez priorities in the legislature have included the treatment of PTSD, improving mental health treatment across the state, providing resources for survivors of sexual assault, and ending the gun violence epidemic. Senator Gutierrez has stood with the families and victims of the Uvalde massacre to uncover the failures in the Department of Public Safety and the state's response to the shooting. The senator will review the recent activities of the Texas legislature. And his continuing fight to create real change and representation to all communities across Texas. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to you. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me, Al. Thank you for the invite, Taylor. Everybody on the call. Otilia, great to see you again. It is an honor to be here with you. We was trying to figure out what to talk about, you know, with Al earlier in the week. And he mentioned, you know, that you guys were going to talk about the Truth and Healing Commission on Indian boarding schools. And, you know, as you're obviously aware, that's a federal issue and you guys are working on that. I look forward to helping you guys in the state Senate still, because I'll still be in the Senate for the next 2 years on your tribal ID bill. I fear that, you know, with the Republicans moving even further to the right after these primaries, that any kind of equity and justice for marginalized persons is even going to be something that is even further from reality. But I'll begin by telling you that I think that it's okay to say this on this Zoom, and I say it all the time anyway, no matter who's on the Zoom, is that I'm a Democrat and I'm a progressive, and I don't apologize for it. I do not feel that moderate accommodationist policies are going to get us anywhere in Texas. And sadly, you know, we did not win the United States Senate bid, you know, for a whole host of reasons. The biggest problem was financial. My fight isn't over, and I hope that your fight isn't over. I don't think it is, because we're all on the Zoom together. But I wanted to really tweak your mind a little bit, or just get us all to thinking about how we create something that's bigger than the 12 or so people that are on this call, 14 people that are on this call. How do we create some movement that has to be something substantial? Because I have spent 18 years in the building that has disenfranchised, marginalized people even more so. As I stated in the beginning, I consider each and every one of us in some way indigenous, even those of us that don't have a formal tribe or tribal organization that we can identify with. You know, being the son of immigrant parents from Mexico, Spanish was my first language. I didn't speak English until I was about 6 years old. And somehow this happened. My district is massive. It starts in San Antonio, goes down to Pearsall, and goes all the way to Big Bend National Park. And in that, I'm proud to represent the Kickapoo tribe, tribal group, and the all of Eagle Pass. I'm proud to represent Uvalde, Texas. And that is really what drew me to run for this last race. I was so disgusted with the way Ted Cruz, I know how he treated you because I saw how he treated families in Uvalde that had just lost their children. I saw him, how he treated them in Uvalde, Texas, how he, showed up with his fake crocodile tears and did absolutely nothing. I saw how he treated Kimberly Rubio and Felix Rubio in his office. I know how he's received the Cáceres family and others that have gone to see him. And that's why I primarily ran. I've seen more dead kids than I care to. I had to sue the government, and I saw all of the images and the footage of all of the body cams. I saw all of the failure that led up to that tragedy. Certainly, those cops didn't murder those children, but they did nothing to save several of them that could have been saved. And for 77 minutes, they sat there in the hallway. Sarah, can you tell her to keep it down a little bit? I'm sorry, I have 2 teenagers, and one of them likes to yell a little bit. But all of that I saw, and I think you've all heard me speak about it at different times. And I don't want to rehash or relitigate that. I mean, I don't want to bring you down or make this conversation about Uvalde. But I think that it has to be a discussion about what's happening in our government, how it's not working for marginalized people, how it's not working for people on the fringe, and not necessarily Democrats. It's just not working. We are living in the state of Texas, that simply doesn't function. And we have a governor and a lieutenant governor and an attorney general that don't know how to manage government. Forget their policies, forget who they are. I mean, forget the letter behind their name. They simply are not good people, and they simply don't care about human beings. And you saw all of that in their reaction and their response to Uvalde. You've seen it how this summer, they turned down almost $35 million in after-school lunch money that would have helped from the federal government, that would have helped poor working-class families feed their kids in a lunch program for the summer. Just turn back the money. It's our money, by the way. Those are our tax dollars. We've seen them how they've taken 1 million people off of Medicaid rolls, and they claim that they can't put them back in a timely order because of a computer problem. We saw how 800 people died in Texas when it got cold in 2021. That doesn't happen in third world countries. It's just, if you just look at the core functioning of just recently, the fires in the Panhandle. Of all of the things that we have in this state, we have about 20 planes. Most people don't know that the state of Texas owns planes. Usually to fly politicians around. I've never taken one flight ever. But we don't own one single plane to put out a wildfire. Imagine that. We've seen the destruction of property, the destruction of animals, and even the destruction of human life. We saw 3 people that died in the wildfires, including one volunteer first responder. And so we are living in a place where the people that are running this state don't know how to manage it and don't know how to run things. That's thing number one. Then they get to their venomous politics. And their venomous politics, their loose Republican gun laws are what killed those kids. Because if, they always go back to the same thing, that it's these evil people that are finding that have access to these guns that are causing this damage. And if they didn't have a gun, they'd kill them with a knife, they'd kill them with a bat or whatever. We've heard all the same things. Well, I'll take my chances with a knife and I'll take my chances with a gun. And I'm sure those kids would have had a hell of a lot more chance with a bat. I'm sure they would have had a hell of a lot more opportunity to be able to run from those two instruments than this weapon that was used. And so when you look at their policies that are put in place, like loose Republican gun laws that allow anybody and everybody, and even an 18-year-old, to access an AR-15, that is a travesty that's happening in this country. When you look at when you look at what they're doing to women's reproductive rights and freedoms, and how they would rather have you in shackles than be a part of a modern day society where even the country of Mexico and even the Pope and so many people are moving towards the idea that this is a basic healthcare issue and nothing more. It's a basic healthcare for women issue, but that we're living in some different alter universe in this state. When we look at healthcare itself, and we have a governor that refuses to do Medicaid expansion, and I know you all know what that is. That's healthcare for working class families. We don't have that because this man has refused it, because it begins with something called Obamacare, and for no other reason, because it's under the Affordable Care Act, because it's $9 billion of federal tax dollars to $1 billion of ours. So it's absolutely a no-brainer. When you look at what they're doing on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in our universities, and they've banned this idea of DEI offices. And what they were was really just hiring. This is how dangerous this issue has become now. They were hiring offices. They were opportunities for colleges and universities to be able to take those fundamental elements, diversity, equity, and inclusion, into our hiring decisions. Well, no, they no longer can do that. But now what's happening is counties in different counties along the state, and different cities in this state, and towns in this state that see eye to eye with those policies, and even some that don't, like even San Antonio, are now questioning their DEI offices because they don't want to get sued by the Attorney General. So even in cities like mine, where you would have a city that would be very open to having these kinds of offices, the county is pulling back and saying, well, we're going to get sued by the Attorney General if we do this, even though there is no such requirement for counties and cities. That's the danger of where we are. You've seen the policies on book banning, you've seen what's happening with the LGBTQ community. All of this, no matter, even if you're a Republican, which I doubt many of you are, or any of you, I hope not, where we are going is a fundamental attack on our liberties. And so my question and my discussion, I can preach to you all day long about all of the issues that you already know about and that we talked about in our campaign, and that I'll talk about probably while I'm the rest of my time in office. But instead of solving the real problems that are happening in Texas, like the fact that we don't have affordable housing, the fact that homelessness has become, that homeless people are treated as some kind of pariah by a governor, rather than understanding the basic fundamental issues there, that there's mental illness that this state cannot and has the resources to deal with, but refuses to do so. Austin in Taylor's community, you have begun to create some new housing concepts where you have a kind of limited joint communal housing where people are sharing kitchens and sharing bathrooms, but they have a basic home by which, so that they can protect themselves from the elements. And you allow people to go out and the incentive is that, hopefully you'd want to get into a better home than that down the road. But you have to give them the social services like we do in San Antonio through haven for hope, where you're trying to retrain people and get them all the healthcare that they need, find the job opportunity resources they need, the training issues that they need so that they can move on with their lives in a real way. You know, rather than to solve the issues of raising the minimum wage, which we should do, rather than trying to have some kind of equal pay status in this state, they're not solving those things. They are keep us fundamentally in a situation where they are pulling more and more people to their side, and a lot of people that look like many of us on this call with Z's at the end of their names and vowels, that they have got them to believing a concept that the migrants are coming and they're taking our jobs and they're bringing fentanyl and they're coming to kill us and all of this crazy madness, which we all know is just bullshit, right? Because we know that this country is made of migrants. We know that, I mean, we're all smart folks on this call. We know that every economist that's worth their salt in the United States will tell you we have 30 million job vacancies in jobs that Americans don't want to do, the hard jobs, the dirty jobs. And so we can create a comprehensive immigration reform system that works, but they don't want to do that in Washington. In Texas, it's just spend all our money, $10 billion in this last session, on the border itself. Right now, in this ridiculous operation Lone Star, he's about to spend $500 million without legislative approval, building a little military base in Eagle Pass, Texas. That has already begun. Those are the tremendous, imagine that housing, imagine that little forwarding base in Austin, Texas, and what you would be able to do with $500 million to help our housing crisis, our homeless crisis, and how we can best address those things. But those ideas and those solutions for anything good has never been on the table while I've been in the legislature for 18 years. And so the question then is, well, what do y'all do up there? Well, I've passed some good amendments. I've created some things like, you know, the Center for Warrior Resiliency, which takes veterans off opioids. But I did that through an amendment. Imagine what we would be able to do if we were in power. I created the Farmer Suicide Prevention Act. They didn't like the fact that I was doing. I said, go ahead, vote against farmers. Highest incidence of suicide in the nation. It wasn't something that they just did because it was right. I did that on an amendment, and Sid Miller says, well, last session, because of that Gutierrez amendment, they didn't like to hear that either. We saved 60 lives. The full bill, the rest of the bill that we weren't allowed to do because it wasn't germane to the bill itself that we amended it to, our original bill had a microloan program for farmers. This has worked in other states. I don't bring those two issues up and many others that I've done to pat myself on the back. I bring those issues up to tell you where we are in this state. We're in a space where Democrats are left with two options, one of which I will not do. Become an accommodationist, pass 300 bills or 20, not 300, that's too many, 40, 30 bills, 20 bills. You pick a Democrat that's passed a bunch of bills, and it's okay. You can tell them they know I'm critical of this kind of stuff. And you go look at the bills that they passed, and you go ask yourself, well, what did this really do? And sometimes there's some monumental things out there, but for the most part, we're changing a comma. We are creating, we're doing a survey or we're doing a study of something. It's whatever they let us do. It's not anything that is fundamentally going to change the course of what happens in Texas. And then there's the other kind of Democrat, the one that yells and screams from the back. Raise my hand, that's me. That says this is unjust and this isn't fair. And occasionally has an opportunity to, through a point of order or through the first time ever, twice this session, challenge the ruling of Dan Patrick, made him sit down when no one has ever done that in 10 years. And I'll keep doing that as much as I can under the rule book that'll allow me to do that, because I don't need any kind of little small bill. I need to save farmers' lives. I need to be able to figure out how we're going to do tribal ID. It's not going to be by a bill that anybody in the House or in the Senate passes for you, because it'll never happen. It's got to be through some amendment that we're able to sneak on when you've got, 200 indigenous people in the gallery, and we find an amendment, and then there's an opportunity. And which leads me to my last point in this discussion, and what I said to my staff internally, what I've grown up believing since I was college Democrat at the University of Texas, San Antonio, and studied Mexican history and studied the history of Texas history and the Raza Unida Party's history. But this notion of so there was some kids that came to my office this past session, and they were young kids. They were college kids, and they were all Latino kids. And I have a painting in the corner of my office, and it's a painting of Emiliano Zapata. And I asked them, I said, do you guys know who that is? And they had no clue. And then I said, well, his name was Emiliano Zapata. Does that ring a bell? And they still had no clue. And these were very left-leaning kids. They were all about the environment and everything else. And they were poor Latino kids, all college graduates. And they still didn't know. And I said, well, his name is Emiliano Zapata. He was one of the fathers of if you will, of the Mexican Revolution, which was the first modern revolution of the 1900s, before the Bolshevik Revolution. And I don't know if he said it directly, and some of you that are smarter than me will probably tell me it wasn't his quote originally, or somebody else, because somebody's told me that recently, and maybe it was. But he always said, prefiero morir de pie que vivir de rodillas. I would rather die on my feet than spend a lifetime living on my knees. I think that we're at a time right now in this country, and in this state for sure, where these people, and it's not fair for me to say these people, but these horrible Republicans don't care about us, don't want to do anything for us, not going to do anything to help Texans. Just Texans. Forget Democrats, forget Republicans, just Texans, because there's so many rural, so-called rural Republicans, that they're getting screwed the most. And they just don't realize how much they're getting screwed. And so my call and my question and my ask is, and what I told my staff when I started this campaign, I said, I'm not going to have all the money in the world. The other guy's already started with $2 million. I've got zero. And he had a 2-month lead on me. And I'm not bringing in the other guy because I'm not crying over that spilt milk. What I told my staff in the beginning is what I've always wanted to create is a revolution. And what does that revolution look like in our modern times when, our cell phones dictate everything and my kids are stuck to their cell phones, and while you think it would be a good communication device, and it is, they're getting barraged with, 100 channels. For me, when I was a kid, there was 3 channels. When I was a kid, it was 3 channels. When Otilia was a kid, it was 3 or 4 channels. That was it. And now we're so spread thin by information, and we're getting hit by all sorts of different things. How do we create this tunnel vision where we say, forget the Democrat and Republican piece, but those people that are in power in Texas don't care about us. How do we find people that are going to care about our issues? So many people have said, well, thank you for what you've done with Uvalde. I don't know what I did much other than cry with my constituents a lot. But someone recently said, no, you did more than that. You stayed there and you fought for them and you kept their issue at the front, in the front burner. My whole life in public office as a city council person, a state rep, or a state senate, and as a lawyer, all I've wanted to do is fix things. I'll build a house or two every now and then when I have some spare time. We have to fix what's broken. But in order to fix what's broken in this long term, and I'm about to wrap up, I know y'all want to go eat dinner. We've got to fix ourselves. And fixing ourselves means that we have to create this revolution. And I don't necessarily like the politics of the guy that beat me. He's one of the people in the other group that I mentioned earlier. But we have to get behind him nonetheless. I mean, I'm still, I will support, our entire ticket. But I don't think that our fight ends on, the first Tuesday in this November. I'm talking about something that we're most likely not going to be able to accomplish between now and November. And I'm not even talking about registering people. I'm talking about how we collectively create this idea that we are under attack, because I don't think it's an idea. I think it's the truth. And when you're under attack, how do you defend yourself? We all, and the only way to defend ourselves is to vote, and we all vote. But how do we create a Zoom call where there's 40 people, 400 people, 4,000 people? I don't even know if Zoom works that way. I don't know if you can get 4,000 people on a Zoom. But how do we create that movement? And I know that Beto has done really good work in this space, and his politics and I are more alike and more aligned. And I really believe that as Democrats, that's the only way we're going to win, because he got us closest. And so we'll see how this other experiment goes, but I think we've done this show before. But again, I'll back that ticket, and that's fine. I'm not talking about November. I'm talking about something more fundamental, that this state is our indigenous state, es nuestro. And I don't mean that to be divisive either. I think that if you look at just about every indigenous culture, and let's even look at a Western culture or an Anglo culture, we're all fundamentally drawn by one concept, that we're all here together. And this Christian ideology is, I am my brother's keeper. We were raised on the golden rule. Somehow, the guys that are running this Christian, fascist, nationalist, whatever crap that I'm hearing on the other side, somehow they've forgotten all of that part. And so the question is for all of us is, how do we begin this revolution? And how do we make this something more than we are right now? Because we must, and we have no choice. And so I really thank you all for being part of this and believing in these things. I'm sorry I didn't tell you much informative stuff, Al, on anything that's coming out of the Texas legislature for Indigenous people, because there really is nothing. But we're going to work on a tribal ID bill, but it's going to be a tribal ID amendment, and there's a way to do it. But one day, when we're in charge, and if you can imagine that, a day when we run the building, when the building looks a lot different. Imagine all of the real bills that could happen, and all of the good legislation, and all of the legislation that would wipe out all of the bad stuff that kept us down. And imagine what schools would look like in Texas when we actually funded them well, when we actually paid teachers well, when we actually had Medicare for everybody under a Medicare for all model, which is more of a federal thing. But you get what I'm talking about. And so thank y'all. I appreciate it. It's been an honor, and I'll continue to fight, and have me wherever I'm willing to go wherever, because I don't want to lead this revolution. I want to be part of this revolution, and I'll do whatever you want me to do. But I think that there are some people out there like Beto and others that are real leaders in this space. And I tried to do my part, and I'll continue to do whatever God has in store for me. So thank you all. I appreciate it. I'll stick around for a little bit for any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If the Homeland Security recognizes our tribal enrollment card the same as a passport when I want to cross back into the United States, because I do go to Juarez and come back, Why is it that our own state won't consider it an ID?
Well, you know, for the same reason that I mentioned earlier. Well, the philosophical answer is they don't care. I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. The philosophical answer is they don't care. The actual answer is that we must fight to. So imagine that we're going, you know, let's assume that this is our fight in the Texas session next session. Maybe this is your legislative fight. Imagine that. Something that should be so simple, that should be so easy to do. We're going to spend a whole session trying to get, and let's say we could succeed at it. We spent 5 months if we were successful. And we should have been trying to figure out how we're going to create opportunity for indigenous and tribal lands, people on tribal lands. And we were going to try to, you know, figure a way to, you know, provide real health care for people in this country. You know, I guess that's my point. And to your question, Anna, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a pretty simple deal. Federal government says yes. Why can't the state say yes? And Anna, to the answer is we must beat them, because they don't want to do the simple. They don't want to do the complex. They don't want to do anything other than empower themselves more and make more money for corporate folks, while the rest of us get screwed here. And I don't want to oversimplify this that much, but that's what this is about. It's about power and money. And when will people that look like us and have vowels and E's at the end of their name say we're the majority of this state, or we're the plurality of this state? When are we going to say we're running this show? It is our job to take all of the people that look like us and say, let's go with that. And when they say, because some of them are starting to say this Trump crap, you gotta debate them, and you gotta talk to them, and you can't give up on them, but you tell them you're dead wrong. And the ones that aren't voting, that's where we got a better opportunity. And so just go down this road for me. Let's do an experiment. Imagine if we had one statewide elected official that was brown, that was indigenous, that spoke, that was like us, that did the things that we wanted. That's what this is, because they don't even give us the simple. So that wasn't an answer, but it's certainly the problem. Thank you all. You guys have a great evening.
I was gonna, if you have a few more minutes,
Yeah.
or I don't know if you wanted to go ahead. I just wanted to see if anyone had any comments or maybe like quick responses to like how do we create this revolution, or just any kind of final thoughts or comments about what we discussed.
Yeah, I think that there is. I'll try to give you a quick answer. I don't know how many people, there's 14 in your membership. I don't know how many people are actually or there's 14 people on this group right now, including me. I don't know what your number is in total. How we link up with progressive groups. It's not even about registering people to vote. It's about getting the people that are registered to vote. It's about going into communities door to door and figuring this thing out. I mean, I used to say during the campaign, as I went to, over to Longview when I met Al. Al, we met in Longview, right? I'm just trying to make sure you're not in time. I was in so many places. And I've met many of you along the way. I've always said this, if each one of us gets out one extra person to vote in November, we win. And I don't mean gets out somebody we know is going to vote. We find some new person, because there's 500,000 pretty staunch Democrats. If we found some new person, then we win. It's as simple as that, and yet it's so complex. It's so complex because their politics is based on hate and division and disinformation. And so those are the challenges that we have, because we're losing people on the border on disinformation. And I think the party has a lot of work to do on the Democratic side in Texas. I think they absolutely have a lot of work to do We've got to get our primaries in line in a better way. But we've got to talk to young people that aren't voting and don't. You know, in Georgia, Stacey Abrams really took the young vote to 20%. We're still stuck at 12. And if Latinos voted 2 points higher, we could win in November. But it's all right there in front of us. For me, I don't think it's about saying they're right on immigration, because they're not. They're not right on immigration. They're just not. And there's some Democrats, unfortunately, they're saying, oh, yeah, they're right on immigration. We need to build a wall. And we need to do this. No, that's bullshit. And it's not because I just said so. I mean, it's not, no, I mean, I can point to things that just, those things just simply don't work. We have to figure out how, I mean, clearly we're not dying yet, but we're close, you know, believe it or not, with their anti-abortion bills. The women's mortality rates have went up in the first year. Infant mortality rates went up in the first year of after they passed their bills. I mean, so we're just in this. At some point, people are going to have to say, look, we probably kill more kids with guns in Texas than any other state. We certainly lead the world in gun violence of young children. And so at some point, people are going to have to just say, this is nuts, and we're going to have to do something. And, you know, in Mexico, it was what it always has been in those kinds of revolutions. The have-nots really didn't have a pot to piss in. They had nothing, and government took the nothing from them. They were damn near slaves. And so maybe people aren't feeling the pain enough. And sadly, with some Latinos, you know, they make $100,000 and they think they made it. No, man, you're so far from that. You've not made it, and you got a long way to go. And your children shouldn't even have to be paying for higher education. It should be free. And if it's not going to be free, then let's figure out a debt program that works. You know, so we just have to, I don't know, but I will tell you this. I'm going to try and find out here in the next several months what matters most to people. And I'm going to talk to people like O'Rourke and others. And we're going to find the messengers to create this army and create this, you know, peaceful, civil, disobedient revolution, because it's worked. It worked for Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. It's worked. And when people start to see, and I really think they're trying to suppress a lot of it, by the way. And I even think that there's some Democrats that are trying to suppress some of it. And I think you saw that in the TikTok vote. I'm sorry, I just don't believe the whole they're spying on us shit. I mean, they're spying on us. We're spying on them. It's just the way it works. I mean, technology is out there. It's crazy. The fact is, young people are talking to each other and communicating with themselves in a very incredible way on TikTok. And that freaks them out, you know? And if we communicated on TikTok, and when people don't know how to do that, it scares them. But yeah, I mean, rather than solving real problems, rather than stopping what's going on in Gaza and the Middle East and everything else. And so I could go on forever, and I don't want to, you know, hear me rant. Is there any more questions? Al, you got a question? Otilia's got a question, whomever. Otilia?
Well, I had a question. Well, actually, you mentioned, how do we begin this revolution? Well, one, we've got to stop believing in what the Republicans and all this fear mongering that they continue to do. As Democrats, we have Democrats that will not even put up a sign, because then people will know where they live and people will identify them. We've got to step away from that. What is it? To be braver. We have to be braver. You know, in my campaign, I ran for county chair, and I decided to put my face on my sign. Let them know who I am. Let them see me. I live in a rural county. It's very red. So that's what I did. Unfortunately, I did not win, but I still put my face up. When we were picking up our signs, the representative, District 58, Dwayne Burns, Abbott has come after him. And it was kind of surprising for Republicans that they went this far over the vouchers. Well, we kept running into him. Anyway, towards the end of my campaign, he picked up our sign and he says, OT, OT. I mean, I found that encouraging in a rural community for a Republican to pick up my sign. You wouldn't do it, but still, we need to stop, and we need to, instead of always being on the defense, we need to stand up and be proud, unapologetically progressive, unapologetically Democrat. You know, wear the big D. Just that. That's one of the things that we can do is just stand up, wear a sign. I mean, what could they do? What can they do?
Yeah, it has to begin somewhere. Maybe at this next convention, maybe progressives and groups like yours, they all get together and we have our own platform that says, you know, yeah, we're Democrats for sure, but
we shouldn't hide from it.
We're the fighters, and we're the ones that want to fight. We're not the ones that are going to come, you know, accept their premise.
Right. And as you mentioned Emiliano Zapata. I mean, he said, stand up on your feet, not on your knees, because the way they've got it going, the Republicans, they'd rather keep us on our knees, groveling for anything that they dish out.
Yeah, and let's not forget, we don't have to go too far. I mean, it's Martin Luther King, it's Cesar Chavez, it's so many things. It really does mean boycotting, right? It means saying, look, I'm not going to go to a certain place right now because we got to have people feel the pain of their choices.
Right. And we can also remember March the 31st is coming up. Cesar Chavez's birthday. Someone who fought for the average person. You know, I myself, yeah, we were farm workers. I have pictures where I believe I was 5 years old and we were out in California, and it's my mom with all 10 kids of us, and she's got her newborn at her chest, breastfeeding. We're there in the orchards. So, I mean, we've come a long way, but we still need to keep fighting.
Yep, that's right. Thank you.
Al? Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with you.
I think Tia raised part of what I knew the minute she started talking that she lived in a rural area, because I moved back a couple of years ago to rural East Texas. And it's the same thing, you know, it's like, why are Democrats the best kept secret, you know, in the town? And, you know, I mean, part of it's the cliquishness of the culture in general. But basically, we're not fighting against a political ideology anymore. You know, it's not Republican ideology versus Democratic ideology. They don't have an ideology. They're fighting for power. They're fighting to keep themselves in office. That's their goal. And I think that's why the country's heading the way it is, you know, because the need to control through gerrymandering and things like that is really done serious damage to our political system, to our democracy. I mean, not just in terms of keeping people from voting, but just in terms of our political mindset in a way, or their political mindset, those in power. And I think, you know, and tell me if you agree with this, Ro, because it's I you know, and I realize Texas is a huge state, so it's hard for people to go down to the Capitol, and they only meet every 2 years as opposed to a lot of places where they meet every year. But I think, or even, you know, to go to your local representative's office, to just be there, be present, you know, bring a bunch of folks down like our friends are doing here in DC, you know, be there. They need to be reminded that we're out there, basically.
I'm smiling. I agree with you, Al. I'm smiling because I see Anna's point here. She said, I call it a movement. A revolution sounds too close to the devil Trump. That's fair. I was in a young. I sometimes still I think I'm still a young college kid, even though it happened all 30 years ago, and I was a young revolutionary. But whatever we call it, I think that, for my part, I think that we have to define it into some basic things. For me, I think gun violence is it impacted me in an incredible way. And I'll talk about what I saw forever and a day. I think women's reproductive rights has to be at the top of this thing. I think certainly healthcare and what we have done to screw people over on healthcare, because we should be talking about Medicare for all. It's a very real deal, and it works, and and most leading countries have a single payer model. We don't, because of greed, because of corporate greed, nothing more, and politicians that are in the pockets of those corporations, those big insurance companies. We have to talk about housing and pay, and how we're going to have a raising of the minimum wage that makes sense, because it's not even $15 an hour. Every economist will tell you that for Texas, it's about 20. We have disincentivized work, and we have those Trump tax cuts. All they did was take care of rich people, and people don't understand this. And so it's those 5 or 6 things for me that I'm going to try to hone that message as to how we are being screwed over by these folks. And I don't know if I'm going to run for anything again. My wife's next to me. She's nodding her head saying no. But I'll tell you that it's those things to me that are important. And I'll go anywhere across the state to talk to people about that. I know O'Rourke is traveling across the state and the country. We need to find that whatever those we need to collect leaders that are willing to say, this is what's wrong, this is how we can fix it, and this isn't even what's wrong. To your point, Al, this isn't even ideological stuff. These are the common sense problems that are wrong. And and here's some fixes that even Republicans should be able to agree with. Maybe not an assault weapons ban, but raising age limits, extreme risk protective orders, they all agree with us on that. But we've got these crazy politicians that just want to screw us over. And so I'm going to continue this. I don't know if y'all saw that speech that I gave on that concession night. I was angry. I was pretty angry. I called Trump and Cruz some bad names. But in the end of that thing, I said, I'm not done. I'm not done. I cannot be done for the time that I really feel in my own faith that you're here for a particular purpose, and you have to keep moving. And, whether you believe in God or not, fate, karma, whatever, you're put in these places, and you have to keep moving forward, and you have to keep trying to add value. And so I'm going to keep trying to add value. It has been amazing meeting you all, not just tonight. Most of you I met along the trail, and I look forward to seeing you again. And thank you for having me. It means a lot, Al. Thank you and Taylor and everybody, Otelia, for inviting me.
Thank you.
You guys have a good evening. And with all that food talk, I'm going to have to go make dinner.
Yes. My last thought is on this whole note of, creating this revolution. One thing to keep in mind is that we have to continue to give people something to vote for, not just something to vote against. So I want to thank you for doing that with, your state Senate work, all the things you do. I also work for Texas Civil Rights Project. So all the work you do, border and immigration stuff and fighting gun violence. And also, as a caucus, we don't endorse primary candidates, but also wanted to thank you for giving the more progressive side of the party a great candidate to vote for. So thank you so much. I want to see if Kristen has any last announcements or comments or anything. But yeah, thank you so much, Senator Gutierrez, for being here.
Thank you guys. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
No, Senator. Don't go. Don't go. Can you hear me?
Don't
go.
Okay, I hear
Yeah. Sorry. I've been listening to everyone. I'll turn my camera on so it's more impersonal.
So hi, I'm Sophia Lasano. I'm 20 years old in UTA's Native American Student Association. I just wanted to say it was really cool hearing from all of y'all. I know just as a Texas resident that we can't just like hit you up or just text or email or whatever, but I'm facing some neighborhood issues in Dallas regarding my Hispanic neighborhood. They're trying to ban the Lowrider Association from doing our Easter celebration. So if there's any way that you were interested in helping me, please let Rojo or me know or Taylor know, because I'd really need some help.
Yeah, no, we'll probably, our office helps whenever we can. We'll probably talk to some of your state reps and your senators over there. I did put in the chat, that was when I was looking at that comment, I forgot to mention, I put my personal emails in there. That's the one I look at mostly over the state side. And I also has my cell phone number. So if you feel free to text me any issues, and we'll direct them and we'll help however we can. That's what we always try to do. So thank y'all. Have a good evening. I've got to
Thank you.
take care. Bye-bye.
Alrighty, bye.
Thank you so much.
For our members who are still on, I did want to point to Kristen, and I'm sorry, I know it's late. We'll let you go soon. Kristen's stuff in the chat, and feel free to come off mute, Kristen, if you want. But we have this call to action about the the convention this summer to be a delegate, as well as to submit this rule change proposal so that we can be legit and have representation in the SDEC, which is the official people who make all the important decisions in the party.
You better wait.
I think they've changed the name to State Democratic Executive Committee. Sorry, did you hear me, Taylor?
Yeah, was there anything else?
No, I didn't. I was just, you were mentioning the name, but I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Or Al.
Kristen, do we have anything written up yet?
Yeah, so if let's see if I can share. When you go to this call to action and you click the button, it will take you to a letter that has instructions. It's just a one-page letter that has text that you can copy and paste and put into the rule change proposal form from TDP. It also has the links to become a delegate, as well as the TDP's form to submit a rule change. And I don't know if I can, I'm on my phone, so let's see if I can share it.
Because this convention is next Saturday. So
yeah, so we have 3 days essentially to share this with all of our local Democratic groups, our SDEC members. So I would, I'm going to share the original letter in Slack. If somebody has the link to Slack, you're welcome to share it here.
Do you want me to share my screen?
Sure. If you were able to share the letter even so people see what it is that they're clicking the button for.
Am I on mute? No, I'm not. Is this? Yeah. So once you sign up, I just did this and I'm already forgetting. I think it takes you directly to this link. And so yeah, this is the rules proposal form, which is a Google form. I'll show you all in a second. But there's, yeah, these parts in bold are what y'all would type into the certain field. So request a resolution intended to be a rules proposal. This is the title of it. And then this is the proposal itself. And then where it says, therefore be it resolved, you can just put NA. But yeah, so that's all of that crucial information. And then again, this link is here. There's a few pages of this Google form, but it's pretty self-explanatory other than the few important pieces of information in that letter. Anything else?
Just a reminder, when you do look at the form, you can see on there the dates that the form is active. They will shut it down at certain points. And we have until March 20th for any people who have pre-registered as a delegate. Basically, any delegates can submit these rule changes that may go before your March convention, or your county Democratic convention, or your it's either a Senate district or congressional district county joint county convention. They're changing it this year from the Senate districts to the congressional districts. So for some people that will be confusing, but for people who have still a county party, it's probably less confusing. But you will want to submit this form, and you may see these rule proposals as well as resolutions and platform proposals. You'll see these at your county convention. You may, if your county operates in a way where you vote on passing these things up to the state Democratic Party. Later on, your county chairs and your Senate district committee men and women should be able to also submit this form up until, I believe, March 28th. So if you don't get it in the next 3 days, you'll want to talk to your county chairperson or your Senate district committee man or woman. Anybody who's on the SDEC is able to submit stuff later, I believe. The instructions are on the form itself, so it'll have more correct information than what I'm able to tell you right now on my phone. But I know we only have 3 days, so this is short notice. If you can share this in your Facebook groups and your local Democratic clubs, if you can email it to a friend or text it to a friend and say, hey, I know you're going to be a delegate with me at the El Paso convention, fill out this rule change submission. But we need your help to get this visibility over the next 3 days.
Yeah, and we can share, I guess, with other county committee chairs also, or somebody who we know is a delegate in another county committee.
Absolutely, that'd be a great idea.
Now, I was under the impression that we could, as a delegate to the county, and this may be wrong again, because I always take everything I'm told with a grain of salt, because there seems to be a lot of confusion about party rules. I was told that we could actually bring an amendment or a rule to the actual convention, not, our local convention, and submit it. But I would recommend, I guess, doing it this way just to make sure. But
were you meaning to say your local county convention or the state convention?
No, the local county convention.
Okay, yeah. It depends on your county and how they operate, because every county might be different. I know when I was in Tom Green County, it was really easy. We just printed out all the ones that we had and put them up on the wall, and everybody just initialed the ones they wanted, and that's how we did it pretty simple. But and I believe we did submit some after the fact, after the convention, through the county chair was able to. But
I agree with Taylor. Yes, it is probably very rural, because that's the way we were told we can do it also.
Yeah, I don't know how Harris County does it yet, so I will find out.
I did last Thursday at our last meeting sign up to be the Rules Committee Chair. So far, I'm the only member, but I signed up to be the Rules Committee Chair to make sure that we do get this on our agenda for our convention. So, and that we vote on it. So
Yeah, we're gonna
Awesome.
get this done, y'all. We're gonna get it done, and it's exciting because it's
Está
3
listo
days.
para party.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but we're gonna get it done. All right. Well, we share a lot of links with y'all today, and guess what? I'm sharing another one on Slack and on Facebook. But today, somebody mentioned the Indigenous Peoples resolution from the United Nations, and I do believe we gotta start adding a lot of these resources for every time we lobby, and even for these conventions, right? Once we start attending, feel free to bring it up because there's some great things there that I think are good points. Now I think we're towards the end of it, where everyone's just gonna. Is there anything, a burning thing that somebody would like to share? Otherwise, we're about to close this meeting.
I just wanted to say that it's a even though I didn't have a speech prepared before, I woke up from my nap an hour before joining the meeting. I'm really honored to meet everyone and hear everyone's passion about our communities. You know, I love Texas, but I'm a very proud native and I love my Hispanic fellowship. And I'm so glad that there's somewhere where we're advocating and we're supporting it. And I will be that young person. If y'all want me to do anything, I will be that person.
Well, he
I
said
can't.
TikToks. So, Sophie, we need to put you on TikTok.
Oh, I'm camera shy. What about a cleanup somewhere or a lobby?
We'll figure it
I'm
out.
playing.
Figure it out, yeah.
Thank you all so much.
You could,
For
you could,
today. Oh, I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi.
Sophia can do a TikTok training for us, maybe, if she doesn't want to do TikToks herself. I mean, I could see some of us. Some of us have a face for TikTok, not me, but
My cousin has 2,000 followers on TikTok and she can teach me it.
Perfect.
And she's Chichimeca and Chickasaw.
ah,
Yeah, I forgot to say it. I'm from the Chichimeca tribe, South Texas.
Woo. Awesome.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
let's
think
get
someone
this TikTok going, and I really hope that we all keep connections.
we sure will, and we'll invite you to our next month's meeting. So thank you so much. Please don't forget, stay connected on Slack or Facebook because you're not alone. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Good night, Watto.
Night night, or good night. I'm headed out.
Al, were you about to say something?
no, yeah, no, because I don't want to end on a negative note. But did anybody hear? Did anybody hear? There's a gentleman who would like to be our next president who made a comment about immigrants today or yesterday, I guess.
What did he say? Trump, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he said that he basically he started talking about gangs and things because of course all immigrants are criminals. We know that from his kickoff speech. But he basically said that immigrants aren't people.
Love that.
Yeah. So, that's why when people start talking about, well, they're both old and I'm not interested, and I mean, or they can't get behind an issue. You should be able to get behind an issue about whether or not people are treated like people. I mean, we're facing some really scary times, and yet it seems to be sort of like almost a 50-50 breakdown.
Yeah. And this is definitely a conversation for another time, but I think between now and like October, the Democratic Party is going to have to figure out its messaging for people who are like one issue voters. Because I mean, like as y'all know, care so deeply about the Palestine issue, but like we can't just not vote for Biden just because he sucks, like, or because we don't like some of his policies. Like he's definitely, I don't know. There's a really strong case to be made that he's not nearly as bad as Trump, obviously. Anyway, sorry, brain is fried.
Yeah, I mean, he may not, stand for everything you stand for or not, and somebody accused me of being like a, total party person the other day, which, if anybody really knows me, I'll, I may well be the only member of any Democratic Party that's been yelled at by the state chair in the middle of a fundraiser. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there's just no comparison, you know? I mean, we're looking at basically somebody who, you know, worships Hitler as a hero, you know, versus, I mean, and yeah, we should be doing it shouldn't even be a question, you know, and that's why I don't understand. You know, I understand why people may not, you know, may feel like their vote doesn't count or whatever, you know, but to just not do anything that you possibly could to save, you know, the country that hopefully you claim to, if not love, at least have some kind of attachment to, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Rojo's kicking me out. Gonna go. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. But yeah, thank y'all again. And I'm
Y'all
sure
take
I'll see
care.
y'all soon.
Good luck Tuesday.
Thanks. Bye.